Welcome to the S.E.M podcast. We're back with another guest, Brock Wilke. And where are you joining us from, Brock?
From Henderson, Nevada, sort of, outside of Las Vegas.
Great. Yeah, the temple's actually in Henderson, right?
No, actually, the complete opposite side of
the
of
opposite.
the city. Yeah, we were all a little disappointed. It got stuck in
New
Little
one.
Mountain to Henderson. Yeah,
The new one will be there.
yeah.
Okay. So I think all the members are on that side with you.
I think so too. At least the good ones.
All right. Well, Jack, Bryce again here hosting with Zack, Hewlett, and we're getting this year started off right with a couple of fine guests. So, Brock, we're going to start out with how you got your mission call. We'll kind of skip over the mission to see what you've been up to since, and then we'll go back and reminisce. So, start us off with how you ended up in Scotland.
I sort of mentally preparing to meet with you guys. Like I was trying to think back on really what prompted me or why I decided to serve a mission. And I don't think I really decided I wanted to serve a mission until I was probably like 17. Had a good group of friends in school, and they were all thinking about it, and just kind of decided. I was like, yeah, I guess I can do that. I'm from a part member family, so my father's not a member, and majority of my family wasn't really active, so I wasn't sure how they would take it when I said I wanted to serve a mission, but very positive, very receptive, and I've always been very grateful for that. So, we always kind of joked around too that my dad was confident no matter where I was going that he was going to come visit after the mission. So, when I fill out my papers, I had that a little bit on my mind. So I was like, well, I better make sure I put down a foreign language, or else I'm gonna be stuck in the States, and he's not going to want to come visit me in like Alabama or something like that. So, I didn't really want to learn a language, but I think everyone puts that down anyway, unless they're just 100% adamant. But in reality, it doesn't matter. You're going to go where the Lord wants you to go anyway. So, it was still back in the time where you would get, like, it came in 3 weeks or 4 weeks after you submitted it. So if you didn't get it on the third week, you knew the next Thursday or Wednesday, I can't remember, that it was going to be in your mailbox. And, that week went by and you didn't get it. So we knew it was coming. And I remember I had a quiz or a test or something. And I remember sort of telling my family to, leave me alone. If it comes in, I don't want to, I don't want to know about it. I gotta finish this test. And I remember sitting in the test, and I think I forgot to turn my phone off of vibrate, and it was going off like crazy. And without even pulling it out of my pocket, I knew I had my call. So, still doing my best trying to focus on there. And I rush home, and like as soon as I got home, I think, I don't know, like the floodgates of family members started driving up and pulling into the driveway. And I can just remember everyone sort of pulling up, getting there. And so I'm just kind of sitting there with that big thick packet that you get. I think they do it all online now.
Yeah, it's all email these days.
Yeah, so I had that thick packet, and opened it up, and I kind of read it, and I think the joke was everyone, Scotland, Edinburgh, everyone always says that, and I don't remember if I said that or not, but I know I just remember just sitting there and be like, well, I'm going to Scotland. And everyone was all excited and was like, well, never would have thought that would have been a place. And, after all my friends kind of got their calls, I was like, man, I kind of did hit the jackpot, because I do get to go out of the country, but man, I don't have to learn a language. Like this is exactly
you thought.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh gosh.
So, so that was that. I was able to finish up school. I was sort of a younger group in high school, so I didn't turn 18, 19 until I didn't turn 18 until I had already graduated high school. So I had a whole year to work and sort of prepare for my mission, and then seems like I got the call and was on the plane heading over to England.
What was the timing of that?
I was trying to think back. I don't have the time. I know I would have gotten it in the spring. I think it probably had 2 or 3 months to prepare before I went out. And I went out in July. of 04.
Okay.
Nice.
Great. All right. Okay, so skipping forward, after the mission, you got home. What you been up to since 2006-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I went to school, went to UNLV, our college that's here in Las Vegas. Was pretty interested in mathematics. Originally wanted to be an actuary, but the more I sort of got into that, it became increasingly apparent that was going to be extremely boring. So I decided not to do that, and so I continued with the degree just because it was a mathematics and a statistics degree, and that's interests me anyway. So after that, I still studied for some of the exams. Just like I said before, I didn't really enjoy it. Ended up getting a job for with a small startup company. It was kind of I think this is like one of like the big stories, I guess, after the mission of where we really saw like the Lord's hand in our lives. And my wife was the bread maker for quite a few years while we were both going to school. She was working full time, and I was working part time, and going to school full time. She was going to school part time, and then she was getting her teaching degree, and it was right around the time where she was about to start her student teaching, and she couldn't work while she was doing her student teaching. And I just sort of started in this job, and we sat down, prayed about it, and said, "Yep, this is okay. Like, go ahead and quit your job, put in your 2 weeks, and start with your student teaching." I don't think it was more than 3 weeks after maybe 2 weeks after she quit, or 1 week after she put in, or 2 weeks, or something like that. That I got a call that I was sort of let go from the job that I had. So here's my wife that just quit to do her student teaching. Like, I'm out of a job. Neither of us have jobs. So we were kind of like, okay, so what are we gonna do? But I remember, we were praying about it, doing everything we were supposed to, and really driving home from the grocery store one day, just thinking, man, like, we don't have a whole lot of money in our accounts because we're still just getting done with school or finishing school, and just kind of talking amongst ourselves. And I got my phone rang as we were driving, and I got a call from a recruiter. And, one of the first questions he sort of asked me was, are you looking for a job still? And I said, yeah, absolutely. He said, are you interested in gaming mathematics, which is dealing with the slot machines and all that type of stuff, which is a really big deal here? And I said, no, absolutely not. And he said, okay, cool. I think you're perfect then. Because all the other people he talks to are, sort of interested in that stuff. And there's quite a few mathematicians here in Las Vegas that get involved with that. And,
Wow.
that never really interests me a whole lot. So, and basically got a call from the recruiter, met with him, and I had about 5 or 6 interviews with the company I was working for. And I started in probably a week after the phone call. So just, it was, looking back, I mean, just such a testimony to us of you do the right thing, and you listen to the Lord, and things will happen in the way that they want it to happen. So
Yeah.
I've been pretty much with that company. I know, when we talked before, I know initially I was like, oh, I can't really talk a whole lot about my work, and I made it sound like I was some type of secret agent or working for the government or something. But in reality, our company, or the company I was with before, was in the process of being bought out, and I was not sure what I could talk about, or if they even wanted me to say who I was with or anything. So, but that's all said and done with. So it's all good. So I worked with the American Gym Society laboratories for about 9 years in their diamond grading laboratory here in Las Vegas, and I was really the researcher for about 8 years. I worked with diamond manufacturers, diamond cutters around the world, helped them cut diamonds better, essentially. Help them analyze diamond sparkle, retain weight, and worked with a lot of people to get patents on some of their diamond cuts. And that's pretty much what I've been doing for almost 10 years now.
Wow, that's unique. That's really incredible.
Yeah, not anything I thought I'd get into, and not anything even close to what I went to school for. But I had sort of the right skill set, and and because I work a lot with clients, and I have a very technical degree, they sort of keep telling me I'm sort of a good mix of technical and able to actually talk to people. So
nice.
That is a big win.
It's a rare breed there. I can't
awesome.
talk to either technical or real people.
Sometimes I feel more like I'm pretending that I can, and I kind of fake it a little bit, but they seem to be good enough that they kept me around.
Cool. So you and your wife, when did you get married?
So we got married in May 2011. My wife's family grew up probably, I think it was 2 freeway exits from where I grew up. She has a brother 1 year older than me, and another brother that's 1 year younger than me. Never knew him. Can't recollect a single time that we knew each other, but just the way that the high school boundaries worked. There's a main highway in Henderson called Boulder Highway, and that's essentially the cutoff. And the high school that she went to, timing wise, was closer than the one that I went to, but since we were on different sides of the road, we just never had any interactions or anything with each other. It wasn't until after I got home from my mission that we just had sort of the same group of friends and got to know each other that way. And we actually had a class in college together and kind of got to know each other a little bit there. And then, she went up to BYU and we just stayed in contact after that and came down for the summer and we started dating, and that was sort of that.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's great.
You guys have any kids?
We do. Yeah. One little girl. Her name is Coraline. She's 7 years old.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
Oh, yes, it's great.
That's good. So you're from there and you've just stayed there, right?
Yeah. Actually, we moved pretty much right in between where we both grew up. So I'm one exit over one way, and she was one exit out the other way. So we didn't move very far.
Are your parents still in the same places then? So it's like easy to go from one place to the other?
Yep. So both our parents still live in the same place. My sister lived in our neighborhood for a while, but she bought a house close to my parents. My brother-in-law and his family just bought a house a few years back, just up the road from us. Like, we're in the same ward and stuff. Oh, wow. So all of our family is like 10 minutes within each other, minus one of my sisters and one of her brothers.
Wow,
that's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It becomes a little hectic in the holidays trying to arrange everyone to get together, but kind of bittersweet.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, take us back now. You can start with the MTC or Scotland, whatever you want, and kind of roll through your timeline and any stories you want. We are implementing a new guideline. We're trying to keep these a little regulated to 90 minutes about or less, because we've had some marathons.
Yeah, I've been following, I've been listening to everything on Spotify and listened to a couple of them, and then after I got the invite from you guys, I was like, man, there's no way I can talk for this long. I hope they're not expecting me to go through that. I mean, I'm sure I have some great stories and everything, but man, I mean, I couldn't even make up stories and fill up the time, I think.
It's all good. Those were rarities, not the expectation.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yep.
I think the very first experience that I recall was after sort of leaving family at the gate and getting through, and no one else, as far as I knew, no one else was flying out of Vegas. So it was just me flying out of Vegas to Atlanta, I believe. So here I am, 19, just sitting there with my stuff, in some ways almost like, man, what am I getting myself into? About to go away from my comfortable life and, a good time to go to this, other side of the world. And I think as you are alone, your mind kind of runs rampant and, you start questioning and going through a lot of stuff. And, I remember sitting there and all of a sudden this guy came and sat next to me and he kind of looked at me. He's like, "Oh, you're an elder." I was like, "Yeah, he's like, "Are you leaving or are you going? Coming home?" "What?" I said, I'm just leaving. And he kind of pulled out his pocket and he pulled out his missionary badge and he's like, "Oh, I'm just getting home." I was like, "Oh," just kind of chatted with him for a second. He's like, "Hey, I got 15 minutes. I was like, "Anything you want to know? Anything you want to talk about?" And I remember just kind of sitting there being like, man, I'm really nervous. I mean, I'm really scared. And And like, here's this guy I'd never talked to, have no idea what his name is, probably never seen him again, and just, obviously the Spirit was there and just gave me, I don't even remember what we talked about, but just the confidence that he gave me, just, I got on that plane, was ready to go. Still don't think I talked to anyone, but was ready to go on that plane, and I think when I got to Atlanta, boarded, and the other missionaries were there, and then we, headed out to England to the MTC.
Yeah. Who's in your group?
Quite a few. I'll apologize if I missed anyone, but I was in the same group as Daniel Conway and Jared Lineker and Charles Noble, Rasmussen, Fish, and then my companions Rhodes and Scanlon. And I'm sure there's probably a couple more, so apologize to them if I missed them. So we were a pretty big group coming out.
It's a good group.
Yeah.
MTC was good. I mean, I think sort of being thrown into it and, not having to go up to Provo really, at least for me, made it a lot easier because I was already there. Like, there's no calling over and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, can you guys just come pick me up?" Like, this was my life. This was happening. So, sort of ripping off the missionary Band-Aid, I guess. Which, like I said, I think it made things a lot easier. But yeah, so my companions in MTC were Rhodes and Scanlon. So we were in a trio through the MTC. I honestly don't remember a whole lot of the MTC besides getting in trouble, going down to try to get snacks after dinner. I remember that. The other thing I remember too was the temple was closed for 2 weeks while we were there, so we only got to go to the temple once. The time that we were in the MTC. So I remember being pretty bummed about that. Really only knowing that I was going to be able to go to the temple once until my mission was over. That didn't end up being true because we got to go later on, but that was sort of the what was going to happen. But I mean, besides that, like, I loved my time in the MTC. I know a lot of people sort of hate it because it's sort of like a boot camp and very, very strict, and you're sort of on these very extremely tight schedules and stuck with people that may or may not want to be there. And but I think everyone in my group, we had a great time together, and realized we were all in the same boat. And I loved being with Elder Rhodes and Elder Scanlon. They were two great guys, and felt myself very lucky to be there with them.
Yeah, that's great. That's a fun group.
Yeah, I'm sure that they made it easy to enjoy being together.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I don't remember a whole lot from there, but I remember having a good time. Like, I don't have any bad memories. Just remember, just like I said, having a good time and all kind of being there together.
Yep. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
first couple days trying to stay awake, too. I remember that. And I remember a couple guys just crashed. We're in lessons or personal study and just crashed. And, no one really says anything because we're all doing it.
Yep.
Jet lag is not fun.
No.
Goodness.
So getting up to Scotland, my first companion was Darren Allen.
Nice.
And we were in Cambuslang, in the Cathkin branch. And to this day, it's just crazy. Like, I have no doubt that Darren was really the companion that I needed as like my first companion. I mean, he was just like such a solid mix of good time and working hard. And I don't know if he'll agree with it or not, but I felt our personalities were right on with each other, even though it maybe have taken me longer than he probably would have liked to maybe loosen up and get my own personality together. But like, I can't think of a single person out of everyone that I met on my mission that I think I would have rather had train me than Darren. And we were also sort of a unique situation where we were living with one of the members. We were living with Maureen McFarlane um, in her little apartment um, in Cambuslang. And she passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But I mean, she fed us like crazy. I mean, we would come home, and like even if it wasn't dinner time and we were coming home for something, there would just be donuts on the table, or she would just have something for us. It was just like, I mean, I think I gained all my mission weight just living with her. And I mean, and then we didn't have a car or anything, but anytime she was home and we were there, she would take us wherever we needed to go. And, we would do our proselyting there. And it was, I got babied a little bit my first being first into the mission, but it was a good experience. She actually came over for my wedding when my wife and I got married, and was able to stay with my parents, and was able to experience that. And then when my wife and I visited Scotland, we spent some time, we were able to visit her grave, and sort of a again, a bittersweet experience. And being like one of my first interactions with someone of Scotland, and have such a close relationship with her, and all the good she did for my family was really, and I definitely treasure that.
That's awesome.
That is, wow.
But yeah, like I said, Darren was great. I have a lot of good memories and a lot of things that that I remember him teaching me, and some being some of my first memories of a missionary. A lot of the things stick. I mean, many times, I mean, you said it too, like, well, I didn't really learn a language, but you sort of did. And being in a Glasgow area, I mean, I think one of the worst accents. I mean, there were many times where he'd knock on a door, say his spiel, and we go to the next door, and he'd say, "Okay, it's your turn." And I'd knock on the door and say who I was, and they'd say something. And I would just look over at him, and he'd have to just finish up because I had absolutely no idea what they were saying. And I think that probably went on for a good 3 weeks before I was able actually to have any type of conversations with people that could do any good, because I had no idea what they were saying.
We've all been there.
Yeah,
literally.
Yes, indeed.
But
man.
But yeah, that was my first sort of introduction into the mission. And so after Darren, I got shipped up to Stornoway, and I served with George Willis up on the Isle of Lewis. And man, that was quite a change. I mean, I've lived in Vegas my whole life. I don't even think I ever went to Mexico. I mean, we got Spanish club trips, but I don't even think I left the country there. Just pretty much stayed in my whole area. And to go to this like Scottish port town was just such a culture shock for me. I didn't know what to do with myself. And Elder Willis was great. I think he, probably put up with me more than he needed to, of sort of coming right off of my trainer. And I think, looking back, like I had, well, this is what we need to do. This is what a good missionary does. This is what we need to do. And Elder Willis was a great missionary. Just didn't do the things that my trainer did. So I think after some time, I was able to relax a little bit and actually enjoy him for the great guy that he was. And just we had a great time. I mean, I remember he liked to play pranks on me too. Which I later, definitely appreciated a lot more than at the time. And I mean, he would like, I don't know, I can't remember some of them. I remember one time he's like moving this pillow while we were trying to fall asleep, and kept waking up and thought something was in our room. And then all of a sudden he just starts busting up laughing. But I don't know, did either of you ever go up to Stornoway or get to go up to that flat? Man, that was the creepiest flat. Just
I don't know that I went to your flat, because they closed the area for a period of time, right?
Yeah, they did.
And then I went up there towards the end of my mission when they had reopened the area, so it had to have been a new flat, I would guess.
I hope so, man.
Yeah. But yes, I did go to Stornoway for a period. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the branch up there was great. Solid Scottish name, Donald McDonald. Like, just just cracked me up every time we meet with that guy. So you would have visited Moena up there as well.
Probably, yeah.
And I think her husband David is the branch president now. Do you remember Terry and Jackie?
I don't know. Again, I was only there for a few days, so I didn't meet a lot of the members. We went up and did some GQing and some door knocking.
Okay.
So with a couple of newer missionaries, which was a lot of fun.
Got it. Well, good sort of story with that. So, Terry and Jackie, when my family came over after the mission, we went up to Stornoway and we were able to meet with Terry and Jackie. And one thing that we did is they were building or remodeling this house. And when I mean like remodeling, I mean when you drive through the countryside and you see this chimney in the distance in this big field, that's the house that they were like remodeling. Like they were taking this sort of shack and turning it into a house. So I remember a lot of our service was working in their house. And I definitely remember with Elder Willis, like we were in there just pounding away at stones to break stuff up. So when my family came over, we visited with them, and I really wanted to see them when my wife and I went over, and tried to get a hold of them, and didn't have a working number, couldn't get a hold of them on Facebook, and we just sort of were like, well, unfortunately, it's what it is. So so we get up there, and we're just getting a couple groceries, and I'm kind of standing there, and I'm like, it's Jackie. So she had actually got in line right behind us, and she was with her daughter and was kind of looking at me, and I could tell she knew who I was, but couldn't quite figure out who I was, just because it's not someone you'd expect to see.
Yeah.
Standing in the grocery store with you. So we were able to catch and spend some time with them while we were there. So that was sort of a great experience.
Cool.
It's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, Stornoway, just man, what a place. And then so I was up there with Elder Willis for 6 weeks, and then he left, and then I got Elder Brown. And Elder Brown was very knowledgeable, and just probably had the most people skills that any missionary that I ever met on the mission. But he was getting near the end of his mission, and like all of us, seems like it gets a little harder and harder to to sort of focus. And we did a lot of member work, which is something I didn't have a lot of experience in. So he sort of taught me how to really work with members and do missionary work in that way. And we did a lot of that. And I think one of the cool experiences with him is we were sort of walking around one night, and basically like the Northern Lights just kind of appeared as we were walking around up on Stornoway, and we're both kind of standing there like, whoa, what's going on? Like I was a little freaked out because I had no idea like what these lights were in the sky. Like I thought this was it, second coming, it's happening. And realized, oh, it's the Northern Lights. And we just kind of sat there and looked at them for a while, and just kind of talked with each other. And I think it was a really really good moment and experience for us both. And I believe I don't remember if Drew or Elder Willis was with you, or it was Elder Brown, but while we were up there too, just a massive storm came through. I mean, like biggest storm in memory, washed a bunch of ships and onto the shore. There were some people that died on some of the other islands. Just wrecked the town, and just remember being like, well, what do we do? And the branch president called us and told us not to go out, stay inside, and or call members and see if members need help with anything. And but being up there, and the 2-story flat that we were in, and just remember sitting in there and just the thing shaking, just with how strong the wind was. And it was just the craziest thing I've ever experienced weather-wise. Like I don't think I've ever been anything like it. But I don't know, maybe there's other guys that have been through tornadoes and hurricanes, but we don't get those in Las Vegas, so that was an entirely different experience for me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stornoway too. I mean, that's where I had my first Christmas up there. So that was my first white Christmas. We had snow up there for Christmas. So that was probably the only time I'll ever have snow on Christmas. So that was definitely a very fun experience too.
Cool.
That is unique.
So Stornoway was after Stornoway. I think that's when I went to Dumbarton. And I went to Dumbarton with Elder Noble, and Elder Noble and I whitewashed that area. And I'll never forget walking into that flat, and there was a note, and I think I have it somewhere because looking back, it made me laugh so hard. And I think it was from Elder McAndrews, and he had wrote like the nicest note about who they were teaching in the area, and who they were and where we can see them and when they normally saw them, and just so many details about these people. And I remember like one of the first things that Elder Noble and I did is, we reached out to get in contact with them. Not a single one of them wanted to talk to us. They just liked Elder McAndrews, and like all of them kicked us out, shunned us away, and just like, yeah, we're not interested. I was like, okay, great. I mean, very pleasant. No one was rude in any way, but I just reading that note, having that excitement, get in contact with them, and they just shut us down.
Oh, jeez.
But Dumbarton was interesting. It was actually it was a really large area. We kind of encompassed an area onto the west called Campbeltown as well. And we never really went up there, but just the area itself was rather large. So Elder Noble and I, we did a lot of chapping. Like the sort of the high street in Dumbarton is pretty small. Not a lot of people were ever really walking it. So, I mean, we knocked on a lot of doors during that time, and we worked our butts off. And Elder Noble, I mean, is probably one of the most like humble and genuine, sincere elders I ever met. And he could even become a little less sincere and less humble, and still probably be one of the most humble and sincere guys I've ever met. But I hope he's doing well. I've tried to reach out a couple times in the information I have for him, but was never able to get in touch with him. But
yeah, I've been trying to reach him too. I served with him in Glen Rothis, so he's on our list to get contacted.
Oh, good. But yeah, I mean, the ward was great. It was a larger ward. But just, I mean, the main thing I remember is just lots of chapping. We had a few people we eventually were teaching. We actually had a couple media referrals that we were able to get in contact with. There's one lady named Mary that we got a media referral from, and what a sweet lady. She basically was going to shun us away. Said, she called it, she saw the ad on TV and felt like she needed a call, and then called and didn't want anything to do with it afterwards. But she always said that when when we came to her door to deliver the video, like she knew that that God had sent us to her because of how much like I looked like her son. And at one point she showed me it was very spiritual. I remember a very spiritual moment, and we were just talking about different things, and she said, okay, I wanted to show you guys something, and she called me into her room, and she had this poster that someone had made of her son who had passed away. And I mean, it was like, yeah, I mean, it looked like me, like almost a little freakish, like,
oh, wow.
And not even, but I mean, I was still one of the elders that, per the, that packet you get when you go out, you got to buy this big trench coat, because that's what the missionary standards were at the time. So I was wearing my big trench coat, and then the poster that she had of her son, he was wearing a big trench coat. He had his hair like mine, and I mean, it just was like, just kind of blew my mind. And I was like, well, if nothing else happens my entire time on Scotland, like I know for sure that like I was definitely sent to this place. Unfortunately, like she just, she never really could take the steps towards baptism, but we stayed in contact for quite a while, and her and my mom spoke for quite a while, and then we lost contact, and I could never get in touch with her again. Hope she's okay. She may have passed away, but yeah, hope she's okay. Like I said, never was able to get in touch with her again after that.
What an experience.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So yeah, Elder Noble and I, spent we spent 6 weeks together, and then I had Elder Datavio, and he came over to Barton with me, and we were sort of like we were sort of like a dream team of missionaries, because when you get there, if you talk and you're American, anyone that's ever talked to the missionaries before is immediately like, I don't care about Utah. I don't want to talk about Utah. I don't want to talk about America. Like, just they immediately go to that. Or the other thing they get is like, well, you guys don't know anything because, you've had 3-4 generations of Mormon, and it's so easy for you guys. And, sort of that line of thinking. We get people that want to talk about the church. And, me being from a part member family, and Elder Datavio being from Italy, like we shut those people down every single time they brought it up. And it sort of led to good conversations, and like them getting to know us a little bit more, because we didn't sort of fit the companionship bill that they were expecting if they talked to missionaries before. So, we're able to teach a number of people just solely based on our just dynamic of our history and our family. So but the other time we had some good times. I think it's some of the fun stories we had, man. So we would work in a charity shop with a member, Sister Browning, and we usually worked in the back or worked in the register. And I remember we were working the register, and these two girls like made it very clear that they were wanting to chat with us. And I remember just being like, we got to get to the back. I don't want to talk to them. And and just like, I don't want to do this. So eventually they came up and started talking to us. Like I said, they're very, made it very clear they were interested in talking with us and wanted to get to know us a little bit better. And they came back a few other times, and I just kept trying to push them away, trying to get rid of them. And they became a little bit more forward every time. And then I don't know if we stopped working in the charity shop or, took a break from working there or what. But we didn't see him, and was pretty relieved. And then one day, man, we knocked into their house, and there was her and her friend and 3 other girls. And I just remember being like, oh man. So then they knew our names. So then they're calling us by our first names, like, oh, come back, let's hang out. And I'm like, oh man, let's get out of here. And then, yeah, what else? And I don't know if this was with Elder Datavia or Elder Noble, but speaking of Campbeltown, we had gotten a referral for this place. And if you sort of look at the map, like I said, Dumbarton covered the Campbeltown area, and it's just like peninsula off the side of Scotland. And you have to take this train, and then you have to take a bus to get down to that area. So we got this referral, and we were even questioning if we were going to go up there, because they're just so far. And
I'm looking at the map right now. That's insane.
Yeah. So I remember
it's further south than air.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I got in touch with President Vriens, and he approved it. We were able to find out it was a member referral. So get the address, and we get up there, and we show up to this place, and it's a mental institution. So we walk up, and I'm like, well, I don't even know if we can go in here. So we get up there and knock on the place, and we talk to one of the owners, and like, yeah, this is, we're here for so and so. They're a friend or a family member of so and so, and they just were like, no, you can't come in here. And we're like, okay. So that's pretty much a whole day wash. Like, I mean, we're stressed out enough because, I mean, there's only one way back. Like, if we miss our bus and then the bus is late, we missed a train, we're sleeping somewhere, like, but it's not our flat. So like stressed out about that. And like, we get home, and then like 2 days later, I think the member contacted us. Is like, hey, so-and-so wanted to know why you didn't see him. I was like, well, we went up there and they told us that we weren't allowed in. And that was sort of a big issue, because found out that they just didn't want us in there, that she was looking for us to give her a blessing, I think is what it was. And the people running the facility just didn't want us there.
Oh man.
So we sort of got permission to go back again, and sure enough, same thing happened. told us to go home.
Oh my gosh.
Like, we don't want you guys here. And we're like, okay. So I think eventually, like, she got out or came out and was able to get what she needed, somewhere else. But yeah, I remember trying to get to the mental institution in Scotland in the middle of nowhere, and just just a crazy adventure to get there.
Wow.
You probably are one of the only missionaries that have ever been there.
Probably. I mean, just it's so far out there and so far away, and it still like blew my mind that was part of that was part of our area.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge, but you have so much water in between that it's just like, okay, well, this is part of it, but obviously I don't expect you to be there every day.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely didn't. I'm just trying to think what else. I mean, there was another man. I don't know what it was with being in Dumbarton with Elder Tavio. There was another lady we knocked into, and she was very happy. Was very interested in what we were saying. We chatted with her and had a couple lessons with her. One day she came out and brought us a bunch of alcohol. So then the next lesson was obviously about the word of wisdom. And we're sitting here with because I took a drink of it and was like, oh, because you just think it's like Schlur or whatever that sparkling stuff that they had, and I took a drink of it. I was like, well, no, this is not something we should have. And so we just kind of left it there. And then the next lesson we came and talked to her about the word of wisdom and why we didn't drink alcohol. And we visited her for a little while too, and the same thing. Come to find out that she was interested in us meeting her daughters that were coming back from college. So after we sort of put some pieces together with that, we sort of left that alone and said goodbye to her.
Man,
you guys had the Kevorkin.
I don't know what it was, and
like Kramer on Seinfeld. You just the allure of women. You're like they just needed to be around you.
I know. Yeah, unfortunately. What else? Another guy, and this is always a fun experience. We were out knocking doors late at night, and I know this was with Elder Tavio. And we knocked into a guy, and you could just tell he was sort of out for blood. Knocked on the door, was being a little irate, and just like kept saying, I'm not interested. I don't want anything to do with what you guys do. I don't want to know anything, blah, blah, blah. And I think I, must have had enough that day. And I finally just remember being like, well, what are you interested in? And he's just like, I like to hunt and fish, but you don't know anything about that. I said, well, actually, you know what? I've been hunting since I was a kid. And, we go trout fishing and ice fishing every year. And he was, just was like, I don't believe you. And then we talked about guns and lures for a few minutes. And then he was like, why don't you guys come in? I was like, okay, cool. But like probably every few minutes or so, he was like, I'm not interested in what you guys are saying, but like, what kind of, like, what's the biggest fish you caught? Or where do you guys go go fishing? I'm not interested in you Mormons, but what else do you guys do? And like, just back and forth. But it's kind of cool because, I mean, he's the only person I ever met in Scotland that had a gun. I mean, he owned a rifle and he actually did hunt and had a big smoker in his backyard. And, did that with his meat. So it's kind of cool to, like you said, I'd never met anyone with a gun in the UK except for him.
Yeah, I only met one guy with a gun as well, and you knew it because when he opened the door, he had like trophy mounts all over the place. So
yeah, same thing. So I mean, he invited us to a couple Thai fishing parties, or not Thai fishing, but I don't know what you call it, but to make the ties for fly fishing. But I kind of got the impression that with his buddies at late at night with a couple of drinks, so didn't think it was really appropriate to go to a fly tying party with him. But we stopped by a couple other times to see if we could get him a little bit more interested in any of the lessons, and he wasn't having it. And I think that was sort of the end of the contact with him. But that I look back at that experience and just always have a good laugh.
Oh, that is a good one.
So I spent 6 months in Dumbarton. First part with Elder Noble, second part with Elder Dotavio, and then I went to Johnston with Elder Lineker, which like I was pretty excited about. Like I said, him and I came out at the same time, and you know, I didn't really talk to him a whole lot on the MTC. Don't think I ever really served around him. You know, and so I was pretty excited. I'd heard a lot of good things about the area. I was pretty excited that there were bikes there. You know, I think just because, I don't know, that's kind of the typical missionary thing is, you know, bikes. But that was really, I think that was the only bike area in the whole mission too, where missionaries had bikes. I don't think we didn't use them that often, but yeah, Lineker and I were great. I was a district leader at the time, and I mean, just some fantastic stories with Jared and I. One of the first things was like the members, from what I recall, were really good about taking care and feeding the missionaries. And there's one guy named Larry Hale who was actually from Las Vegas, so we got along really well because we talked about Las Vegas. But I remember kind of waiting around after church, and you know, as we were gonna have dinner, and they were gonna pick us up, and right before like our ride gets there, I remember Jared just be like, "Hey, just so you know, he sends his daughters to pick us up." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean he sends his daughters?" He's like, "Yeah, he sends his daughters." So yeah, sure enough, he sends his daughters. You know, around our ages to pick us up for a double date at the Hill House for dinner. Which always kind of cracked me up. But they were, I mean, they were good. They weren't, you know, sketchy or anything like that. But that's just how he was, and sort of how we did things there. And you know, I think we struggled quite a bit with teaching there too. I remember we did a lot of work, and you know, I think we definitely had some successes, but struggled a little bit finding people. I think I remember one district meeting, you know, as you sort of get up and you talk about the people you're teaching, you kind of share your numbers. And I just remember cracking up because I think on our list of people, we had like four Marys that we were teaching. So we get up there and we're like, yeah, we got 4 people, Mary and Mary and Mary and Mary. And I think everyone else kind of looked at us like, yeah, okay. Yeah, good work, district leader. Thanks for stepping it up for the district, and was sort of had to laugh about that. I think I remember, I don't know, someone else mentioned it in one of the other podcasts, but the flat was above a shop, and it was infested with wasps. And we had a wasp infestation, and I think it started when we were there. And we were sleeping in this one room, and I remember just one night just hearing a lot of noise and couldn't figure out what it was, and I didn't want to wake up Jared, so I just kind of left it, and I just kind of kept hearing stuff, and I finally woke him up, and we turned the light on, and there's like 5 wasps in the room, and we're, you know, kind of not freaking out, but like, man, what the heck's going on? Well, I guess we left the light on too long, and they all that started to migrate over into that room. So just more and more started coming out from the light fixture. So we grab our stuff and shut the door and run into the other room. And we're like, well, we can't turn the light on, or else we're just going to come back. And I think someone else had the same experience with the landlord, where we called them or tried to get in touch with them, and the only thing they did is they gave us a fly swatter to try to take care of them. But I mean, it was a full-on infestation. Like, you couldn't. I mean, we slept downstairs for a little while because we couldn't really get up into our room to do anything more than grab our clothes. And
oh man,
yeah, because as soon as you turned on the lights, they would migrate over there.
Oh man. I served in Johnston after you, Brock, and
okay.
And they must have gotten at least it spelled in some way. But the worst part is that there were 2 rooms at the top of the stairs.
Yep. And
the room where the wasps were just everywhere was the largest room.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so myself and Elder Ballack were serving together at the time, and we had all the beds like crammed in the other room, and we left that room completely vacant. We rarely opened the door because we just would go in to see how many wasps
yep.
were either in there alive or were already dead because we weren't heating the room or anything. Like we turned off all of the broilers. So
absolutely, yep.
this was such a crazy experience.
I mean, there were some great members there that I remember. I mean, so Allison and her two girls.
Yes, Allison
and Moira.
Yes, Allison and Moira were the pride of Linwood. They took such great care of us. They were amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it was really really fun to see her eldest daughter, and she has a kid now. So it's just
really?
kind of fun to see her growing up and that, like, I don't know, it was kind of really, it was just really good to see.
Oh, that's so cool.
The other thing I remember too being there, and Jared made fun of me for it, but like you'd ride out and you'd sort of go on the cycle path to one of the areas, and I mean that was always a sketchy thing because the kids were always there at night, and we ran into them a couple times, but when I mean run into them, I mean really running into them because you just don't stop on that bike path when you see them.
Right.
But usually we'd go out there. Like I was there at the time where all the blackberries or the brambles were growing. So I was like, man, I want to stop and grab some of this stuff. And he's like, why would you want to eat these? I'm like, well, because they're wild and growing. Like, we don't get this kind of stuff in the desert. So like, this is cool. So I mean, to me, that was just like the coolest thing, seeing this like wild vegetation that I could like take and actually eat. And it was just sort of a normal thing, but it was weird. I think it was weird for him, for me to do that. But I just remember that being something.
Same thing in Cumbernauld. Like there would be the bramble bushes by the bus stops, and I picked them.
Yeah, I had no problem. It was cool. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's my time in Johnston. And then so next I went to Dundee with Elder Ford.
Nice.
And great time with Elder Ford. Dundee was a great place. I remember, one sort of thing up there was, I don't know, did either one of you guys serve up in Dundee?
I was in Dundee, not in Dundee, but I served in Montrose for 6 months, so I spent enough time in the area.
I remember
what ward were you in? Were you in Bingham or Lith?
I don't actually remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, we were in the area that covered St. Andrews as well.
Oh, okay.
That's as much as I remember. But like, I remember, like, we always had to be careful when we were in a certain area because there was this guy up there that the missionaries referred to as Rainbow Man, and he had like, I tried to look through my journal to find a description of him, but I just remember him. I mean, I think he had like a rainbow mohawk, and he had like padlocks for earrings, and he would see the missionaries and always yell. And
I remember that guy now that you're mentioning it. Oh my gosh.
And like, I don't think he was ever violent to anyone, but like whenever he would see the missionaries, he would just go off and just yell and vulgar and just everything. So, I mean, I remember that and just being blown away, just like, man, this guy's crazy.
I do remember that guy. My gosh.
And we, the other thing, I mean, I remember there was this curry shop up there, and they had like the claim for like the hottest curry in Scotland, and they always had some random story about this guy losing weight for his wedding. And so I remember one night, a bunch of the other missionaries that were sort of around were like, we're gonna go get some of this curry. And like, I learned very early on that the tolerance in the UK for spice is substantially lower than really anyone that I've ever met from any other country. So, I was hesitant to, kind of think, okay, well, like, what do they mean by spicy? Growing up eating Mexican food pretty much every other day was normal. So, we got our stuff and we had this curry, and and I ate it and I was like, it's not too bad. And I remember just the other missionaries being like, man, how can you eat that? And I was like, it's not that bad. And they're sweating and like, and I couldn't, like, that was like my experience of just being like, man, yeah, there really is no tolerance to spicy food over here. Just, as I, had a good laugh about that. we were both sick. Elder Ford and I were sick for a while too, where we had to sleep in different rooms, which was sort of a weird experience as a missionary. But Sister Vriens, made sure that we were getting better. And I remember, like, one night I woke up and was like wide awake, and it was just like the weirdest sensation, and was just kind of sitting there, couldn't sit. It was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden the phone rang at like 2 a.m. The phone rang, and it was like, "Hey, is this the missionaries?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is the missionaries." And it was like, "Hey, my name is," I can't remember. It's like, "My name is so and so. Like, I've been looking to get in contact with you guys, but I've haven't been able to get in touch with anyone." And and I said, "Oh, well, let's get you in, let's get in contact." It's like, "Where you live?" And he was in the other Dundee area, so I remember passing that on over to the elders there. And I don't know what came of it there, but that's just an experience I remember. Just all of a sudden being jolted awake. I'm wide awake, like ready for the day at 2 a.m. and just prepared for a phone call, and to be awake for this phone call, and passed it over. Remember giving it over to the missionaries the next day, and that was sort of the end of that. And that was part of the experience in Dundee with Elder Ford.
Wow.
And then after Elder Ford, I trained Elder Weir, and he came in, and man, he was like, man, I appreciated him so much, because he wasn't just ready to work, but he was ready to learn. And I think that's like a big deal. And I think when you come in as a missionary, like, you sort of have this mindset of, I'm going to baptize hundreds of people, and everyone's going to listen to me, and everyone's going to follow what I do. And he didn't really have, I don't remember him really having that attitude. I mean, his attitude was like, I want to get this done, like, let's learn. And he was excited for the work. And I definitely loved and respected that about him, coming in, because it's not an easy attitude to have, for a lot of missionaries. And it was cool too. At the time, Elder Allen and Elder Rasmussen were the zone leaders, and they were in the other Dundee area, so we got to spend a lot of time with them as well. And that was around Christmas time. And I always remember too, because I kind of got shafted, because I left right before Christmas. So, like, what they did in Dundee was they said, "Well, it's too far away from Christmas, so we're gonna save the stuff for Christmas for the elder that comes in." And I was like, "Okay, like, I understand. I appreciate it." They were very nice to me. So after Elder Weir, I went to Irvine with Elder Mace, and I get to Irvine, and they're like, "Oh, well, we it's so close to Christmas, we gave all the chocolates and stuff to the other missionary, and he took them up with him there." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine." So all, like, some of the fun goodies you get as a missionary at Christmas, I kind of bought my own that year, because the other mission, someone got some stuff, but kind of cracked up with that. So yeah, so at that point, Chris Mason and I were zone leaders together. I don't know what you guys refer to as the Maces, but I was with tall dark hair Mace, as a zone leader. Yeah, I don't. I wasn't gonna say skinny or non-skinny, but you can call that how you want. But Mace that like to play the guitar is another.
Yeah,
I guess another description too. And and he, I think he was really someone that I needed too. I really, like, respected him as a leader. He seemed to have had a really good way, and people listened to him. People loved him. People respected him. And, like, it was really great to be with someone like that. Not that any of my other missionaries weren't loved, or my other companions were loved and respected, but I think, like, as a leader, it's harder to kind of have that. But everyone always had good things to say about him, and good things to, and they wanted to spend time with him, and we did too. I mean, we had a great time. I unfortunately don't have a lot of other memories, with Elder Mace, in Irvine. And I know that Marcus McBride was there, with as the other set of missionaries in Irvin. And I don't remember the whole like who was with him. I think he trained at some point McLean, and then he was companions, I think, with the other missionary. I don't remember. He's from a country that I don't remember where he's from, so I apologize if he listens and he gives me a hard time for not remembering. But so like after Elder Mace, I served with Elder Megner. And Elder Megner and I were great. I mean, he was someone that was definitely very abiding to the rules. And like I think we saw a lot of success because of his devotion to keeping to what the mission rules were and keeping what the standards were. Not that we didn't see success and teach people in other areas, but I look back and can really bear testimony that like I think we saw the success we did because of the personality and the work ethic that he brought into the area. And he was another one that just got sick when we were together as a companionship. And I think I struggled a little bit during that time because I'm sort of getting closer to the end of my mission, and finding it harder and harder to make sure to stay focused and not thinking about what I'm going to do when I get back and seeing my family. And just, I don't know, just somehow he still had a way of picking me up, even though he was the one that was sick.
Wow.
And I think the other story I kind of have with that is we were in Edinburgh and ended up in Edinburgh, and we had to drive home, but he was too sick to drive and my license was expired, and President Vriens was just like, just don't get caught, Elder. And I was like, okay. So we drove to Edinburgh, drove from Edinburgh. I don't remember, but I remember having that sort of phone call and discussion, and happened to get somewhere with Elder Megner and happened to drive when I was past my time of being able to drive.
Nice.
But yeah, Elder Megner and I too, we did a lot of chaplain as well. A lot of knocking on doors and meeting with people. So, but really, I kind of thought my last time in the mission was going to be in Irvin. So I kind of figured that's where I was, for lack of better words, that's where I was going to die and finish out my mission. So when President Vriens called me for my last 6 weeks and said I was going up to Aberdeen, I was a little shocked and initially a little upset too, because like I'd been, a zone leader and now I'm sort of shipped up to Aberdeen in a place I'd never been before with, no responsibility, and just kind of left there. And I even told, I was reading through my journals before, I wrote a letter to President and said, hey, would you send me up here to die for? Like, haven't I been a good missionary? Like, can't I just sort of do what I want to do, for my last 6 weeks? And I think he chastised me a little bit and told me things I really already knew. But nevertheless, I went up there with Elder Nay, and I listened to the podcast with Elder Nay, and him and I were only together for 2 weeks, but being there with Elder Nay, like I think I agree. Like, yeah, President Vriens sent me up there to be with Elder Nay. He had just a really good way of working and really what I needed. I think I was tired and was starting to get a little lazy and, didn't want to, wanted to finish things out, but was struggling. And, Elder Nay, I think, had the right attitude. And, he was like, well, I'm not going to be a stickler for the rules, but we're going to kind of work. And, he made a comment of something that I said. And when he said it, I remember even saying it, where we had a conversation where I said, yeah, like I really want to work my 6 weeks, and, but I am a little trunky, so let's not do too much, something like that. And he also reminded me of something that I totally forgot about, where he mentioned that I would let him have the shower, or I would take the shower first so we could have an extra 15 minutes in the morning to sleep. And I'd come out of the shower and he'd be kind of laying there by the vent, warming up, and he would stand right up and get in the shower. And that was sort of our our dynamic in the mornings. But he for being such a young missionary that he was at the time, I mean, he had the right attitude. He had things going for him. He had a way that he wanted to do things, and sort of being a senior missionary. And but on my way out, like I definitely wasn't going to fight him, and was going to help direct in the ways that I thought I could help him be a better missionary. And I appreciated him saying, no, I don't think we should do that. And being like, okay, like let's try something else then, instead of just sort of being like, okay, well, you're the senior, so I'm going to do what you say. But I mean, that was my last 6 weeks, so I never got to serve any more time around him. But I have no doubt that he was a great missionary. And the other thing I remember with Elder Nay is I don't know if other elders were there or not, but we were playing. They had a Jenga set in that flat, and one night we were just playing Jenga, and just all of a sudden we got and realized that like we had no more blocks we could stack. Like we had completed it. Like all of them were either the two end stacks, or there was the one center stack on this entire tower. And just sort of like, well, I've never met anyone that's beat Jenga before, and I think I have a picture of it somewhere of us just kind of laying there, like, man, like we literally beat this game of Jenga.
Cool.
But Elder Nay, our time was sort of short lived. I had an emergency transfer with Elder Pattenton into the zone leader area in Aberdeen. And that was a little bit different of an experience. And I'll share this, and I hope that there's no hard feelings taken, because there's definitely no hard feelings on my end or met. But Stuart and I struggled with the area afterwards for some reason. Just got a lot of negative stuff. We don't really know what happened or what was going on. And I remember calling President about, and this was President Vriens was still around, and sort of asking him like what to do. And he sent the APs up to kind of meet with us and talk to us. And I don't know if they didn't believe us, or thought maybe we were just making a mountain out of a molehill. But a set of elders called us, and I don't know, this was a little deceitful, but we put them on speaker and had the APs that it may have been Rasmussen and DePolt at the time, or maybe it was Rasmussen and someone else, and kind of ripped into us a little bit, and we weren't really sure what was going on. And sort of after that, like, President was like, well, just do what you elders need to do, and unlimited miles, unlimited funds. And we basically just spent the time visiting everyone, and trying to try to get an understand of sort of what was going on. And I think even after the mission, Stuart and I were just like, what the heck? Like, had no idea what happened, or no idea what was going on. But sort of the end of my mission was Stuart and I doing a lot of traveling around the different areas, visiting the missionaries in the different districts and the different areas, talking to some of the members in the different areas, and trying to trying to understand what sort of what was going on within the zone. And then that was pretty much it. Stuart was a great companion. I mean, it was a little hard definitely at the very end, because like I said, my family was coming over. So, I had gotten permission to be in contact with them for like the last week to sort of make plans for them visiting. And obviously that sort of does a number on your mental capacity to continue to work when, your life's about to change again, about to see your family. But, no matter what, Stuart made sure we were out working every single day, in some way, whether it was on the street, knocking doors, or doing something even amongst our travels. So, I'm grateful to him for allowing me and giving me the strength to finish out the mission strong, and, not sleeping in till the late hours of the morning, waiting to just go home.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and I think that was, that was it. Just one more piece at the end of that was, I met up with my family on the way to the mission home. So when I separated from Stuart, I took, I don't know, a roundabout way. They were somewhere outside of Edinburgh at a hotel. I don't remember where. And I remember I got off the train, went to the hotel because it was just right off of the train stop, and like went up to the hotel desk and said, "Hey, I'm looking for the Wilke family," and they're like, "Well, there's no one here by that name." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how to get a hold of them. I don't have a cell phone, and I could try to call them, but I mean, I don't know. It was still far enough in the past where cell phones were still kind of weird. I mean, we were still using those weird Nokia bricks, so I didn't know what my parents had, or even if they had international plans or something like that. So, I don't know. So then I sort of did, I guess, what I've been wanting to do for a while. I just went outside and took a nap because I know I didn't have to be at the mission home for a certain time, and I knew how to get there, and I figured eventually I'd be able to catch up with my family. And I think I slept for like 20 minutes, and woke up, and all of a sudden they had walked out of the hotel, and they were walking toward the train station looking for me, and yelled at them, and that was sort of my welcome back with my family. And I remember we grabbed some of my stuff, and we took some of my bags at the hotel room, and getting into the elevator with them. I think that was fun, like all the tension and all the stress and everything that you sort of have as a missionary from your mission. Like, I think at that point for me was gone. Like, I was with my family. I knew that my time was over, and I just remember taking a deep breath and being like, well, it's on. It was a good 2 years.
Wow.
And then, being, at the time, we were still able to walk up to Pratt's Hill. So walking up to Pratt's Hill that night, and I didn't share my experience going up there because I don't remember a whole lot of it. But I think for me, and this is probably, I'm probably not the only one, but I had quite a few friends that went to a lot of places that were very high in baptizing numbers. I think my buddy that went to Peru, I remember getting a letter from him, and he was talking about how their district was baptizing like 200 people that month, and being like, well, man, that was like our entire mission goal at one point. And I knew we were probably pretty far away from that. And, I think I remember just going up there and, just sort of asking, like, I don't feel like I didn't baptize a lot of people. I felt I did a good job. Like, what do you think? Like, do you accept my time as a missionary? And, if so, like, what do you need me to do next? And, I won't, share some of the direct promptings and the things that I got from that, but, a lot of the things that, I felt during that time up on Pratt's Hill as I left my mission, I think is really sort of carved the choices that I've made in my life to this day. And even though I think for a little while I struggled, still questioning, like, if I really made a difference, being in Scotland, even with some of the experience that I had, like, I still always sort of refer to that time, and those sort of negative feelings wash away. And I don't really have any regrets, and I'm happy for the time that I served in Scotland. And I don't know if I'll ever serve a mission again as a couple mission, but I'm definitely glad I did it.
That's great. Yeah, that's we can relate to that. Those sort of feelings, like Scotland's different.
It absolutely.
So
I can tell you real quick, Brock. I replaced you in Aberdeen. Stuart and I served together for 3 months, and whatever you guys were doing for the 4 weeks you were there, you did some good. Just so you're aware, because we all know, without it being spoken, the experience that caused some of the ripples and the changes that happened really quickly there. And the entire essence of what we needed to do as missionaries at that point that started with you and Stuart was regaining trust from the members to realize that, yes, we are immature boys at times running around and making poor decisions and not remembering the mantle that has been placed upon us. However, I can tell you that because you and Stuart did what you did, he and I were able to continue to build that. And by the time I finished my mission, my last companion was Brant Peacock, and we had that trust back with the leadership, with the ward members, and then the fruits started to come after that. So you did good in that last 4 weeks. I know it wasn't a traditional trunky time of a missionary, but I just wanted to give kudos to you because I don't know if I could have been that person going around putting out fires. I think I'm better off making sure that people know that I love them as opposed to, making friends out of enemies, for lack of a better term. But so you did good things before you went home.
Well, thank you. I don't think I've ever known what sort of happened after exactly. Like I said, I know Stuart and I have been we're in contact, and he actually came to the States at one point, and we hung out and talked about some of that stuff. But I think I sort of left my mission at that point, just being like, well, did what I could with that, and I'm, I don't know a better way to put it, but I sort of left with the attitude like it's not my pig, not my farm anymore. Good luck. I'm going home.
No, you did good. Everyone spoke well of you, and we got it back to where it was supposed to be.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Like I said, I appreciate you sharing that. I was never really known what happened afterwards, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and going into this, I was trying to think where we would have crossed paths on the mission, and when you brought up that you served with Stuart at the last, I was like, that means that he was the person that I replaced, which that was a big deal.
Yeah.
At that point in time, President Fredrick, I think he had been in for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And he basically just said, hey, this is a situation. You need to go in and just fix things. And that was, it was a humbling experience because my focus wasn't about doing too much of the conversion of, people out and about. It was reconverting people and helping them understand that we are here to help you further the work. And we saw that eventually. It just took some time. And, but I love the Aberdeen ward, amazing people. And, Stuart and I had our moments where we butted heads, but, if you listen to Elder DePold's episode, he talked specifically about why he saw us butting heads, and it was really bang on. He was incredibly accurate with that. But I love Stuart, even though I definitely pestered him more than I'm sure he wanted me to.
I think I think we got along so well because we I don't know if it was a good thing. I have to assume it was a good thing because, if we believe that the Lord puts us together as companions and in the places we were, then I got to believe it's a good thing. But man, we were very sarcastic, and we probably ran our mouths, with each other. When we would have a hard time, I think the humbling thing to do is, say a prayer and repent for negative feelings. But I think a lot of times we would just vent to each other about the day.
Yeah.
And just that was our way of sort of communicating with each other. And I think because of that, we turned everything into not a joke, but we were able to sort of laugh it off instead of, maybe going to bed mad or upset. And that was probably the personalities that we both needed for the situation.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, the biggest thing that I did, so in that instance when I came in, Chris Harlow and was training Christian Lucas. So there were 3 Brits and me,
Okay.
And I took that as an opportunity in our times where it was just the four of us driving in the car or whatever, where I'd say all the British swear words, and Stuart didn't like that very much.
No.
But bless him, he put up with me, even though I did it despite him.
I think at the very beginning, like I missed a family member. One of my wife's sisters is currently living in Germany. And where she is living is right now where Stuart is actually performing one of his shows.
Oh, nice.
So I'm trying to talk them into going and seeing him and reporting back.
That'd be awesome.
In hopes that they can, report back and tell me how it is. But
if it happens, let me know. I'd love to know as well.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool when I saw him post something. I don't remember where he posted. I think maybe it was on Instagram or something. I was like, hey, actually, I don't know anywhere in Germany, but I know this place because I have a family member that's living there.
Oh,
I'll share something too with President Vriens, and I know sort of listening to the other podcasts, like you sort of asked for, some of the memories that you have of President and Sister Vriens, and I think we all I don't know. I think we all have some very touching moments with President Vriens, and then all of the experiences with Sister Vriens will just make you laugh. I mean, so I think everything that I've sort of heard in some of the other podcasts is some of the same things that that I remember about her. But as my last interview with President Vriens, I remember it was pretty much my exit interview, because my exit interview would have been with President Fredrickson, right? Was that? I can't remember. Fredrick, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
And I don't know, I remember thinking, well, this is going to be sort of like how Catholics do eulogies at funerals. They don't actually know the person that died, and they're going to say a lot of good things about them. So I made sure President Vriens kind of gave me an exit interview since he was with me, and and he didn't really say anything. He wasn't going to go into any stories, and he just very simply just was like, Elder, I appreciate that I never had to worry about you. I always knew that you were trying to do the right thing, and I was completely just blown away by that compliment. And as I supervise others and work and stuff, I hope that they live to that sort of same standard, and that's really how I try to live. If I'm serving a calling in church, I don't want people to worry about if I'm, whether I'm a primary teacher. I want the parents to know that I'm preparing lessons for their kids and really praying and thinking about what I should be teaching them. And in my job, I don't want my supervisor to be wondering if I'm making good decisions for the company or if I'm making bad decisions. I want them to always be, as much as I possibly can, knowing that I'm doing the right thing. So out of my entire mission, that very end of those few words out of, that President Vriens gave to me just was another thing that just has completely impacted my way of life and how I make decisions and how I act, and, the person that I try to be. So just, sort of sharing that story as, a memory that I have of President Vriens, is, as well as plenty other great ones and also some very humorous ones. But that's one that has always been very personal to me because it just has completely impacted my life.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Because we do ask that question.
I was trying to prepare a little bit, at least to, to sort of get ready. And then with Sister Vriens, I mean, the Sister Vriens memory, I think it's the same thing everyone in my entire group has ever mentioned, and that's the prayer where she couldn't remember Elder Conway's name. And just remember sitting there just being like, here I am fresh out of the MTC, and, I'm serving this mission, and everyone is here is just, these are the people that are probably closest to the Lord besides the apostles and the church leaders. And, Sister Vriens just kind of throwing that out there in the middle of the prayer, just sort of alleviated some of the stress of getting into the mission, in her own way. Was wow, this is a little different than what I expected. Okay.
Oh man.
But I loved it. It was great. My wife and I when we came over to Scotland, we had a chance and we were able to go to Edinburgh, visit the mission home, and sort of just kind of go in there. And we basically just sat in the room with the mission president, that was there at the time, and kind of reminisced a little bit. And that was kind of a fun experience. And for my wife to kind of share some of the mission stuff that I had while I was in Scotland.
Nice.
We didn't ask you, but when did you go back? What was the time frame?
You and your wife.
Yeah, you and your wife.
I went back in 2015.
Oh, okay.
So it was a couple years after my daughter was born, and honestly, it was pretty chaotic. Like, because she had never been overseas. She wanted to go to London. Big Harry Potter fan, so we had to do a whole bunch of Harry Potter stuff.
Scotland's the perfect place for that.
It is. And when my family came over, we also went down to London. So for me, I had already sort of done all the touristy stuff. So there's nothing really in London that I hadn't seen. So I just said, you do whatever you want. If you want to see Harry Potter after Harry Potter, fine. Like, that's cool. Whatever you want to do. I said, when we get to Scotland, I do want to take you to some of the areas that I went to, even if we're not meeting with people, to at least experience and see some of the spots that I was at. So we did a lot of traveling, a lot of walking, put a lot of miles on the car that we drove. And man, I feel bad bringing that car back because I hit so many curbs while we were there. I mean, we bought the insurance of whatever the premium insurance was, so we wouldn't have to pay any damages to anything. And I think that was well worth its money leaving the airport. I think I hit the curb like 3 or 4 times. So, that's always something my wife makes fun of me about, as we talk about our trip. But I think it was great for us to go, and I felt very blessed to just be able to share like part of a very huge and like spiritual and influential part of my life with her. And I definitely think it brought us closer together as a couple.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool. Well, Brock, thank you so much for giving us the time tonight.
Yeah, it's been awesome. We really have loved every minute of it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for poking me a few more times than you probably should have to get me to come on. I appreciate it. I think, like I said, I'm not on social media a whole lot, and I think I eventually saw it and said, okay, yeah, I'm going to reach out. And like I said, I'm glad. I appreciate you guys reaching out more than once to try to get me to come on with you guys.
You gotta help us now. We like member referrals. So.
Yeah, one of the people I served with that you served with as well is George Willis, and I've prodded him quite a few times.
Really?
George,
okay.
George, come on the podcast.
He would be great. I mean, I doubt his, I'm sure the same personality of, kind and humorous is, I don't think that's something that went away into adulthood. I'm sure that's still there. And I bet him being on here would just be great. I bet it'd be a blast.
I'm telling you, if I had him on here, I would probably just grin from ear to ear the whole entire time. I was only with George for 4 weeks, and we served together in Orkney. And
okay.
My goodness, the memories we made in 4 weeks were too much. It's just so much. I can't. So that's why I'm hopeful that he'll get off of his high horse and come on and ride with us.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Maybe he'll, I don't know how many other times he's been called out, but I think it's more than twice.
Oh, heck
yeah. The stuff that I've heard, so.
Yeah, he's a popular one, and I know he'll field quite a few listens and views, and people want to hear from him. So we'll figure it out one of these days. But if there's anybody else that you're still in contact with or haven't been in contact with for a while, certainly let them know that we want to hear from them beyond us poking them like we poke you.
Like I said, if anyone has contact with Elder Noble, I would love to hear how he's doing and how his life is going. And like I said, to this day, like I said, I think even if he lost some of his humility, and I still think he'd be one of the most humble people I've ever met. So, I would definitely love to see how things are going for him. I doubt it's anything but fantastic, but I don't know if anyone has any contact with Marcus McBride either. He's someone, we had a great time in Irvine, and we were in contact after the mission for a while, and I haven't really talked to him since, but I'd definitely love to hear from him.
Yeah, we've tracked him down on LinkedIn and sent messages, but I haven't heard back from him. So I'll keep trying, and if you'll help us out, we'd love that too.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, Brock. We love you, brother.
Thanks, guys. I think I kept it within your time frame, and
yeah, bang on.
So, so I'm sure you guys are tired as I am, but thanks again for allowing me to spend some time and reminisce about about the mission. I think it's as I sort of look back, like there's so many experiences that as we get older and we go through the normal struggles that we do with life, I think a lot of the things that sort of give me a little piece of, little rope to grab onto to help, bring my testimony, back, or help me get through something. I can pull a mission story, I can pull a mission experience to help remind me of, the blessings that I've been given, or something like that. So, this has been great for me. It kind of helps sort of feed that, that spiritual aspect again. And, so thank you guys for doing this for me and doing it for everyone else. I think it's been great listening to the stories from everybody. And so hopefully it continues.
Thanks.
Oh, it will.
It will. Yep.
Oh.
It's really been our pleasure more than anything. I mean, it's one of the most unique experiences that we could have ever imagined. And, uniquely enough, today is my 18-year anniversary from when I went on my mission.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
makes me feel old, but it is, time doesn't slow down. And, but we're grateful that we still have the camaraderie. We hopped on here. We hadn't talked in who knows how many years. It's like riding a bike.
Just like the good old days.
That's right. So, and that's what we want with everybody else that's in our, periphery of people that we want to come on and have these same conversations. It'll be the same thing. It's like we hadn't skipped a beat. So we're excited about it. We love it.
Well, good. I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, I'll just throw one last apology out there to a companion that I may miss, but I don't think I did. I didn't have to do a whole lot of research on my companions, because I remember the times that I had with them. But if any research, it was try to recall some stories and some memories. But if I did, I'm sorry.
No, you had a great list of companions, amazing missionaries.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll say too, all of them influenced, me in some way as well. And like I said, it was pretty easy to remember my companions because, like, regardless of where they are in life now or whatever they're doing, at least on the mission for sure, they, had a positive influence in my life. So, to all of them, thank you. Thank you for being good examples and, good priesthood holders. And, I wish them all the best if we don't contact again, or if I don't get to hear from their stories on the podcast in the future.
I love it.
So, well, guys, thank you again.
We love you, Brock. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you again, and we'll see you around.
All right. Cheerio, mate.
Bye.
Bye.